All right, shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakaha, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone that rule well, that teach well, while learning the truth 100% according to the Bible. Also want to say shalom to the elect, shalom to the Akim and you Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere your children, shalom. And then today's video, as you can see, is going to be another update video from NY Prepper. You basically got some new things that are transpiring around the world. As you can see from the title, it said red alert. Russia releases an EMP, right, which is a electromagnetic pulse into orbit, right? And Russian and U.S. doomsday planes are active, right? So we're going to get in this video and basically listen to what it is that the guy is talking about that is transpiring around the world. And I'm going to get a few precepts and Lord's willing to be edifying, just a little quick news update. But before I start the video, I'm going to say fair use on 1976 Copyright Act. Not getting paid for this video. This is only for educational purposes only.
What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NY Prepper. It is Tuesday, July 1st, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 15:09 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Russia and the Middle East. So Russia apparently has an anti-satellite weapon, or an EMP, in orbit now that was just released from one of their satellites that has been trailing one of our satellites. And what's interesting is that right now, this afternoon, we have a U.S. presidential doomsday plane up in the air over the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We also have a Cobra.
Right. So as you can basically see from the little gist of what it is he said in the video, you basically got, Russia's putting an EMP weapon inside of space, man, right along with the tensions between them and America intensifying, and things like that. And we ultimately know, and I'm actually start off the video with that precept, right? I'm going to go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, because we know that Russia, right, which is Og and Magog, the prince of Meshach and Tubal, they're going to ultimately be the main ones responsible, that nation that's going to be the leading nation right along with America's allies and those other different nations that are going to be joined in with Russia to, ultimately bring forth the destruction of America, Babylon the Great. So this is what we ultimately see brewing up, man. That's why you see America and Russia ultimately at odds right now. That's why you see Vladimir Putin building missiles and trying to come with different types of technology and things of that nature, ultimately to reach here to America, man. And I actually got an article, right, that I'm going to show where you actually have Vladimir Putin come out maybe about, a week ago and said that he's actually, building missiles that can, surpass America's defense systems. So, I mean, we know all of these things are being set up for the Third World War, which is ultimately a brewing fastly and which is about to manifest itself, And we know that America and Russia will be going heads up against one another, man. They're the two biggest military powers on the block with the most nuclear weapons. And we know the Lord is going to put it on the spirit of them two to both be going at it with one another in these latter times, right? Right along with, the nations that are going to ultimately be joined in with Russia, that it tells you about, that Russia is going to be those guard or the protectors of, right, which is Persia, modern day Iran, Moab, which is the so-called Chinese people of the day, the Koreans, and all of the other different people that are going to ultimately join themselves together with Russia, man, right? But I'm going to get this little article that it is, all right, bear with me. I'm going to show it. But this is the time of seasons that we're living in, brothers and sisters. Every day that passes by, you're just seeing things get worse and worse as far as with these countries and their enmity and their hate that they have towards one another, man. And we know ultimately that, like I said before, Yahweh Shai is the man that's controlling everything from behind the scenes. The Heavenly Father, he's playing chess with these nations. And he's ultimately going to put the spirit on them to war and to fight against one another, man. Right? And this is the time of season in which it is that we're living in. So bear with me. I'm going to get this article. All right. This is the article. And as you can see, it said Putin said Russia is starting mass production of a ballistic missile, right? that he wants to duel with U.S. made defenses, right? So ultimately, you got Putin basically ramping up the production of a missile that can surpass America's defense shields and things of that nature. Why would he be doing that? Because ultimately, Russia knows, right along with these other countries, even America, that them and Russia are going to go head up with one another sooner or later, man. And that's the time of season that we ultimately see us coming into, man, you know. So I'm actually read that, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 38 in the KJV. And I'm going to start at verse 1, right? And it says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, right, which is Russia today, and prophesy against him, and say, thus saith the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, because we got to realize that Russia, they're still Edomites, man. So the Lord is against all of these heathen nations, right? Especially Esau, Edom. And it says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, right? And I will bring thee forth in all thy army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And that's what Yahweh Shem Yahushua is ultimately orchestrating. Because here it is, like I said, you got the least of the flock that have drawn them out, which is those Amalekites, right? Those little hats. They have brought America into this war, and America is funding and financing and aiding Israel, man. And then you got Russia on the back end. They're aiding, funding, and supporting Iran. So like I said, this is only going to lead into bigger tensions, because once America get fully more engaged into this war, once it becomes more intensified, then you're going to have Russia joining in as well on the side of Iran. And that's ultimately going to lead to both of these nations fighting against one another, right? So that's ultimately what's going to come out of all of this, man. And Russia is going to be that main nation that's going to be responsible for the nuclear destruction of America. Right along with America's allies, they're going to come up against America, right along with all of these other nations that are joined in unto Russia. But it's mainly going to be Russia because, like I said, again, Russia is the main nuclear state in the world. They have more nukes than any other country in the world. So they're going to be the main country that's going to shoot majority of their nuclear weapons upon America, man, right? And it says, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords, man, right? Because that's going to be all of them ultimately being dragged down to the so-called Middle East, right? Where you're going to have America, Israel, and all of their different people that they're going to have to fight against, which is going to be the Russians, the Chinese, the Arabs, and all of these different people. The Lord is going to lead them all down there to the Valley of Jehoshaphat, man, in the so-called Middle East. That's where Og and Magog is going to get dragged down to, right? And it says, verse 5, Persia, right, which is modern day Iran, Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, right? Because all of these nations are ultimately going to come to the support of Iran, man, you know, and they're all going to be up against Israel and America, right? So that's why you see ultimately Russia doing these things that they're doing, because they know this is only a matter of time before they're going to have to come up against America, man. They know it's coming, you know, that's why they're preparing for it now, right? And it says Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, right? Turkey and all of those different types of nations, they're all going to be involved, and they're going to be on the side of Russia and Iran, right? And it says of the north quarters and all his bands and many people with thee, right? And it says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. And that's what we see Russia ultimately doing. They're being that guard, meaning that protector unto Iran, man. And that's how we know it's only a matter of time before America and Russia is going to go head up with one another. But we know ultimately that that won't take place until the MOTBC hip is made mandatory, man. But we see World War III is intensifying, you know. So I'm going to get back into the video.
Ball, which is a special plane used to detect and track missiles, and it's flying over North Dakota. We also have two B-52 nuclear bombers airborne and a B-1 bomber airborne, so something is going on. And last night we had Russian doomsday planes fly to the Urals, specifically one of Putin's doomsday planes and one of his communication relay planes flew to Yekaterinburg, which is close to the Ural Mountains, where Yamantu Mountain and Kazvinsky Kamen are located. These are two massive mountain bunkers that Russia has.
We're Phoenix Energy, a family-owned...
All right, Salakia, brothers and sisters. But yeah, I'm going to get another precept real quick through the spirit, but you basically hear what it is that he's saying in the video. You basically got America preparing their forces, right? They got all type of different doomsday planes and flight tracker responders and things of that nature, ultimately in the air, flying over America, keeping surveillance of certain things to make sure certain missiles and things of that nature are not being launched off, you know, and Russia is doing the same. You got Putin going to his doomsday bunker and all of these different types of things. You know, they're doing these things because, like I said, these are all test runs because they know sooner or later that, you know, World War III is going to hit, and they ultimately want to have themselves prepared, right? Or at least trying to hide or whatever the case may be in a bunker or anywhere for safety, because they know it's only a matter of time before those nukes are going to fly off, man, between their countries, right? America and Russia, man. And that's what's going to happen. That's why it tells you in the book of Isaiah that the earth shall rule to and fro like a drunkard, man. And I'm actually go to that precept. Don't want to botch it. Because that's going to be when those ICBM nuclear missiles are shot off during the Third World War, man. It's going to cause this whole earth to shake because you're going to have Russia and all of the people that are going to be joined together into Russia shooting their missiles here to America. And America also has nuclear missiles, and they're going to be shooting their missiles at various countries. So, I mean, it's just going to be a lot of chaos, man, you know. And that's what they're ultimately preparing for, that day that they know is coming. This is Isaiah chapter 24. And I'm going to start at verse 19, but the point is at 20. It said the earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean, dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. And that's going to be done through these nuclear missiles, man. You know, the impact of them, how strong they are, and the might of power that's coming with them. They're going to cause the whole earth to shake, man. Right? That's why it tells you it's going to be an earthquake. Never was since there was a nation or, you know, thing on the earth, you know, roughly paraphrasing it. But that's just how bad it's going to get, that these missiles are going to ultimately shake the whole earth's atmosphere, man. You know, when they impact and when they hit, right? This is Isaiah 24 and 20. It said the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again, man. Right? Because those nuclear missiles, whatever they ultimately touch, they're going to destroy, man. Right? So that's what it's talking about when it said it shall not rise again. That's talking about all of these places that those missiles ultimately hit. Mainly this place, America, man, because that's going to be the centerpiece of where majority of these ICBM missiles and warheads are going to land at and hit America, Babylon the Great, man. So this is the time and season in which it is that we're living in. But like I said earlier, you know, we know before that ICBM destruction can take place and before those missiles are ultimately going to be shot off from these various countries towards one another, that CHIP has to be made mandatory. But we still know that these times are fastly approaching, right? So I'm going to go to this precept. This is Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. It said the second woe was past, right? Talking about World War II. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly, man, which is talking about the battle of Armageddon, man. You know, the war of all wars, man, right, is approaching quickly. And we can see that through all of the measures and things of that nature in which it is that these nations and countries are ultimately doing, you know, preparing themselves, getting assembled, getting ready, you know, making sure their missiles and things of that nature can be launched and, you know, testing all type of different other artillery that they ultimately have, you know, because they know that we're in that time of season, man. And I'm going to go to that real quick through the spirit. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and I'm starting verse 1. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, right? Verse 2, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep and a time to speak, right? And a time to keep silence, right? This is verse 8, the point. It says a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And that's the time and season in which it is that we're living in, brothers and sisters. We're living in a time of war. And we know that war is fastly approaching. You already got wars that are taking place around the world, right? Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Iran, things like that. But we know that those are only the small wars to the bigger war that's ultimately going to come in the very near future. As it tells you in Habakkuk 2 and 3, for the vision, meaning the prophecies in World War III is a major prophecy, is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying, just something quick through the Spirit. Till the next time, I'm going to say shalom.